Namaste. Hello and welcome everyone. Happy Friday. I'm going live also on Facebook, guys. So those of you who wish to join me from Facebook, and hello everyone who are joining me from Facebook and Instagram. Welcome everybody. I'm going to talk about parasites today, all about parasites. And the topic of the day is, have you been hijacked with parasites? And how our parasites are affecting our behavior? Or are they not? I've been getting intensely into parasites and I want to know everything. Hey Jeff, you want to join me? Today's topic is extremely interesting. You might want to join me. Instagram. Okay. Instagram is playing game. Hello. Good day, Jeff.
Good day, Sudi.
Did my topic interest you?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic.
Yeah. What do you think about Parasite? I am positively sure you have been hijacked with parasites. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm positively sure that everyone has been hijacked by parasites.
Oh my God, I'm really getting intensely into this
It,
stuff these days, and it's like coming from all kind of illnesses, MS, I don't know, fibromyalgia, heart issues, brain issue. The neurologists are all talking about it. It's a big things coming out right now. And I'm wondering, how is it that all of a sudden everybody is pointing out into parasites? Why didn't we really hear about it so much as we are right now? But anyway, I did a live yesterday. As you know, my Instagram disappeared out of this planet, and that didn't bother me. 76K has just jumped like that. And we started a new Instagram, Burnett, which is all about my ashram. Did I invite you to my ashram and my new earth?
me?
Yes.
No.
Oh, you probably didn't get the
You don't.
invitation, so you
You don't.
weren't
You don't care.
accepted. You know,
Just kidding.
I'm kind of checking out everybody to see
Yeah.
who is qualified to enter my ashram, and you probably didn't qualify. You didn't meet the category because you
Because I didn't
are.
make you a cup of coffee. That's what it was. You're like, I haven't had Jeff's coffee in a while, so he doesn't get to be part of my ashram.
Yes. I had this dream. It was amazing. This morning, I told Sahar about it. I dreamt that I was sitting on my chair in my ashram, and the temperature was so perfect, like so warm and cozy, and you're smelling the incense and all that. And Sahar was wearing this Indian outfit, and she had this like scarf right around her head, and she was letting people come in. Actually. And then someone else was in charge of letting the crowds to come in. I'm not going to mention his name because he hasn't qualified to enter my ashram. And then he wasn't letting everyone to come in. You know, he was like, and I said to him, I said, we cannot discriminate. You have to let everyone know. And he got really upset and he said, well, if you ask me to do this, so let me handle that. And all of a sudden, I must have been really thinking about parasites. This huge, dark, black worm came out of his back end, and he got really embarrassed. And I said to him, I said, you need to go all the way in the back of the room and wait in line. So I guess I'm going to have a waiting list entering my new earth ashram. Anyway, getting back to our topic of the day. Um, Yesterday I did a live on my new Farsi Instagram, and just think about that. And I'm asking everybody here, guys, what do you think? With my previous Instagram with 76K followers, when I was going live lately, I would get about 400, 450 max to join my live. Yesterday, with almost 4,000 people on my new Instagram, oh, George, hello. Let me get George. George, send me a request. Welcome, welcome. I was thinking about you, George. Let me see if I can find him. Let me know if you're ready to come up. Invite. Okay. Yes. Anyway. Good day, George.
Hello. I wasn't
Lovely seeing you, darling. How have you been?
all the better for seeing you, darling. I just came to listen. I mean, you know, I should be listening to you two, not taking part today.
I would love for you to join. What do you think about parasites? And generally, do you think these entities are really affecting our whole body, like spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical? What's your thought on that?
Well, I definitely think a lot of these things are energetic. And firstly, we all know that everyone's body, everyone's temple is different. If someone's body is in a very weak state of immunity, if someone's body and their spirit energy is low, their physical energy is low, their mental energy is low, they are going to be attacked in many ways. Viruses, parasites. I'm not a medical expert in the Western sense, but I can read energy. And the more, you know, when you were saying about turmeric, you know, I was actually listening to a friend of mine a moment ago talking about turmeric, and that's a very powerful substance that you can put into the body, which suddenly helps, you know, reduce parasites or whatever. So it's just a question of listening to your body and really, because when you listen to your body, you really can understand what the body needs. And so I don't really focus too much on the parasites. I tend to focus more on the energetic aspect, which allow for parasites to take over.
Mm-hmm. Right. So if I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, are you saying that if we are in a lower vibration, we kind of sending in invitation to these invaders? Is that what you're saying?
I do. I think a lot of it's about psychic protection and really believing like a child does. It's interesting. Children tend to really believe in what the Western world will call magic. And then what happens at some time between the ages of 4 and 15, I mean, normally it's as early as 5, 6, 7, 8. That magic is erased. Why? Because the culture erases it. The doctor, the teacher, the parent, the society, the older sibling. It doesn't really matter who it is. You know, the bunny rabbit. I wrote this book, as you know, last year. The bunny rabbit, the toy bunny gets thrown away symbolically. It gets destroyed symbolically because it represents that soul magical connection to the ether, to the cosmos, to the psyche. And when we can, you know, and I see it in your eyes, you know, there's a sense of wonder, the real Greek sense of awe.
I'm still a child. I'm so
in
awe with this universe and this earth. Yes, go ahead.
So, you know, I think we're all saying the same thing. We've got to support each other, though. I tell you what's needed now is people are very lonely. And I'll be honest with you, for me, this is still a very, very difficult time because all the stuff that I share with you and a few of us really understand is still not the mainstream. So for me as an empath, the sadness, deep, deep sadness, is how stuck so many people are. And I know, I mean, I'm talking also about people incredibly close to myself. I'm talking about family, and close friends, not just strangers or patients of mine. I'm talking about the most intimate people I've had in my life. Some of those people are very stuck. That's deeply wounding. But, you know, we have to carry on, but we have to support each other. So someone like yourself does such service to people because you allow for the community, what the ancient Indians called the Sangha, the community for people to come together and say, oh, I'm not alone. Oh, Sudi does think like that. Oh, I can speak to her. I can share my truth without being attacked.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So this has been my vision for many, many years, to have an ashram where people come, and it's like, especially when I think of this, George, it's just like about kids, like 1 to 2 year old, that they grow up in this environment that is purely love, and is like, everyone is just that oneness. Everyone works together. We plan things together, we build things together, we start adding up, and it's just all day long is love, meditation, work, sweat, building. And this been in my mind for many, many years. And finally, I think I'm getting closer to it, because the picture keeps showing up more. I dream about it more. And I love to have all of you in that community, that we can just, leave all these social medias and all this, whatever.
Trauma, all this trauma. Really,
Yeah.
what it is trauma. We've got to move beyond the trauma. It's interesting. I have a golden retriever. He's called Zeus. He's 4 months old. And because he was born from his mum, and I bought him when he was, I acquired him when he was like 3 weeks old, he doesn't have any trauma. And so many dogs I meet in the world are from shelters, of course. And my friends doing amazing work, taking on dogs who've been attacked, who've been cruelly looked after for many months or years. And I think a lot of it's down to creating a space where we can move beyond our trauma. I mean, what our job is going to be over the next 5-10 years is, number one, deprogramming people, and number two, helping people through their trauma, which is the same thing. I mean, there is so much pain on this planet, and much of that pain has been largely created by the systems. That's not conspiracy. That's truth to power.
Yeah. So, going back to this parasite, I was just checking out and see how the parasites are really invading our space. We don't want to be in war with them. Of course, they have been here before we even appeared on this planet, right? But it's like, how can we live with all these, the parasites, the trillions, bacterias, and all of that in harmony? How can we do that? Not to be in war, but actually, like I said. So I'm seeing that so much of our craving is just coming up with these guys, because, my background has been in health, fitness, nutrition, blah, blah, blah. And so many people are overweight today, and it doesn't matter how much they're working out, how much they're watching their diet. What is this constant craving? Me, myself, for one, is like this sugar craving all day long, And yesterday I talked about it. I said, let's go on a 40 days cleanse, like cleansing from the upper part, emotionally, like mentally, like we look at our thoughts and we're just don't give them belongings. We separate ourselves from this thinking machine. If there is whatever feeling it is, whether it's anger, hatred, injustice, all of these things, we just let them go. We separate ourselves from it. And when it comes to physical body, let's start to really do a deep cleanse, like getting back into nature. We started from yesterday, like drinking lemon water all day, and just organic, whatever grows out of earth, like vegetables, greens, and all of that, and cut out sugar, all the sugary stuff, flours, dairies, and also gluten. Oh my God, I'm just like, I went to a restaurant the other days, and I was like, oh, I'm okay now. I can handle some bread. And God, like my eczema came back on, and it's just like, it's so much. So I'm thinking, when I do a cleanse, like a deep liver cleanse and parasite cleanse, is just like all the inflammation goes down. I went to a Korean bathtub with one of my friends. Zara called me and he says, I'm going to a Korean bath. Do you want to come? I was like, oh, I don't know. I'm so busy. He says, come on, Chief. Let's just get out and go there. I was like, okay. So we went to a Korean town. And then it's all this like different jacuzzis, different saunas. You have a sea salt saunas, you have clay saunas, and all these different water and that stuff. So I was just enjoying myself, taking all this stuff. And then I came out and my friend said, have you lost some weight? You kind of like shrinking. I said, no, I started to go on a deep cleanse since yesterday, taking a lot of like parasites and liver cleanse herbs. I started taking aloe vera juice with bentonite clay and, you know, all greens and that stuff. And in one day, it's unbelievable, like how much of my inflammation has shrunk in. Jeff? Yeah.
You know, it's I'll just share one thing. It's very interesting. At my healing center in the Catskills, which I've only had running for 4 months, I planted a wonderful vegetable garden in May, and I've had celery on tap there for people coming through the center for the last 3 months. And I've drunk celery every morning for the last 3 months.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a game changer. And it's bitter too. I put the leaves in with it. I don't just do the stalks. And it's bitter, but we need the bitters. And my skin is totally different. I mean, considering, you know, how busy I've been, really how stressed it's been, the celery is a game changer in the morning on an empty stomach.
Yeah. Jeff, you're very quiet. Come on in.
Yeah, I'm just paying attention. So I'm going to do a couple of things. One, I want to take a 30,000-foot view before we zoom in. And then the second thing is I want to be careful with language. So when we use the word parasite, we could be using that word to just encompass anything and everything, but it's not all parasites. There's parasites, there's yeasts. And when you have something like a sugar craving, it's not necessarily a parasite, it's a yeast craving. It's the candida yeast is causing that sugar craving. And it's causing a lot of destruction in our bodies. Now, if we just kind of want to call all of it parasites just to make life easy for us and convenient, that's fine. But if we want to be careful, let's say that we have all of the above. There are parasites, which are parasites. Then there's other bacteria and yeasts and things like that. So often when, for those of us that take a more conscious awareness towards our bodies, we tend to be of the mindset of what's causing this and I want to get at it. And yes, attacking the parasites, attacking the yeast, cleansing our bodies will often, we're not going to use the word cure, but, you know, alleviate a lot of the issues that we have. I suffer from asthma, and throughout my life, I've gone through periods where I never needed to look at an inhaler. I was fine in the world. And there are periods where I needed them every single day. And there was a period where I was using them every single day. And I thought, come on, what is this? And that's when I started to learn about the yeasts and the parasites and things like that. And I ended up doing this ridiculous cleanse. I mean, I couldn't even believe how strict I went with my diet. And I was using these products that this company made specifically for a parasite cleanse, for a yeast cleanse. And one of the things that I had to cut out of my diet was sugar, and any food, even fruit. Any fruit or carrots, any fruit or vegetable that had too much sugar content, because the idea is if you really want to get rid of this stuff, you have to starve it and take the supplements that'll clean it.
Yeah.
And so for about a week, I was out of my mind. I was just like freaking out. It was like the hardest. I've never gone through any sort of withdrawal symptoms because I've never been addicted to anything except sugar. And so as soon as I was going through these withdrawal symptoms from sugar, it was ferocious. But after about a week, and then in the second week it was getting easier, it was like a whole different life. And so all of a sudden it was like, wait a minute. And I went through this, it was almost like an enlightenment period. And then as soon as I started to consume regular foods again, even fruits and then processed foods and things like that, it was kind of like this enlightenment went away. And the 30,000 foot view is that you had talked about like the spiritual components, and you had talked about the emotional components. And we have to understand that emotions are physical. You and I have talked a lot about this, you know, even off of Instagram, where we talk about consciousness doesn't have feelings. Consciousness is just awareness of what our body is going through. And everything that our body is going through is typically survival related, because our body is interested in preservation. Our consciousness doesn't care so much, but our body is interested in preservation. And so when we have things like a shortage of food or liquid or money or whatever, our body freaks out. And it freaks out in different ways, and it craves different things in different ways. That can have an emotional effect that often we link with our spirit. And this is where you and I, like, in, again, some of these conversations that have really gone down the rabbit hole, is we have a really hard time separating the consciousness and spirit from the emotion of the stress that we're going through. And sometimes they're so linked that you almost just can't separate them. So that's kind of where I would start my kind of contribution, is just saying that everything that we deal with, we kind of have to look at as, is this a stressor to my body, which is then producing emotions, and I'm focusing on the emotions rather than sitting in my conscience, in my consciousness, in the awareness of everything.
Yeah, but getting further into it, I'm thinking that these parasites are actually what they're doing, craving in one side of it. But we know, I have talked about microbiomes and gut bacteria and how important they are. But once you have so much parasites growing into your guts and everything, they're actually not allowing the serotonin, because we know 80% of serotonin is being released in your gut, and the good feelings and all that stuff. So the parasite, once they hijack that and they get further into your liver, and then they get further up into your brain, as we all know, many years ago, I got introduced to leaky gut, and I studied leaky gut really intensely. Now we coming into leaky brain. So the parasites and all these millions of bacteria are getting into our brains. No wonder we have so much like Alzheimer's, and people are losing their memories, and they have problem with concentration. Now the scientists are saying, you could be really hijacked by the parasite entering into your brain, and they're manipulating the chemistry of the hormones that are supposed to be released. So let's suppose that the parasite has entered into my brain, and they hijack all of these 300 some hormones that are supposed to be released from my thyroid to my, different hormones in my body and adrenals and blah, blah, blah. If they hijack that and they're manipulating it, so can my stress, anxiety, depression, low feeling of low energy comes from the parasites? What if I just thought about it. I don't need even to do a lab test. I'm just going to start. My God, we know that, like, when you eat raw fish, what does that do to your body? Like, how much parasites you get from, I used to be a sushi lover, sashimi, and I just stopped that because I know there's no way I eat raw sushi and don't get parasites, right? So, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I want to add a couple things. Again, one of the things that there were a few people that knew, but is starting to become mainstream knowledge, is that our gut is a brain. So our gut is intelligent. And any problems, and I want to say, I can't speak on this as an expert, but I believe I've heard it said that our gut actually develops before our brain or something, like it's actually the first brain. I don't want to state that with a lot of confidence, but our gut is a brain and it's intelligent. And the other thing I wanted to touch on was Alzheimer's, because I don't know if that's a parasite issue. My understanding of Alzheimer's is it's an aluminum buildup. And I think that if we look at a lot of things that people consume, we're starting to find, like even deodorant. Like, why does deodorant work, or antiperspirant? Because you're putting a layer of aluminum under your arm. And we'll find it in water sources. And fluoride is a byproduct of aluminum production. And again, none of this is all just stuff I think about. This is not hard research. But I sit here and I think, well, if I'm putting a layer of aluminum under my arms every day of my life, and I'm drinking, fluorinated water, and fluoride's a byproduct of aluminum production, could there be trace amounts of aluminum? And all of this aluminum is building up in my body, in people's bodies, and that's why we have this like epidemic level of Alzheimer's. I don't think that's a parasite issue. I think that's an aluminum issue that's showing up in different products and ways that we live our lives.
Well, here's the deal. Don't you think that all of these fluorides that we're drinking, the chlorine and the aluminum and all of this stuff are creating this environment for parasite overgrowth?
Well, I think that the environment for anything is more of just a compromised immune system. So that's why I said before, anything that becomes a stressor on our lives compromises our immune system. And it becomes, it's like George was saying earlier, it becomes this kind of cyclical effect, right? So you compromise your immune system, then you emotionally feel bad, which then compromises your immune system more. So you feel emotionally worse, which compromises your immune, and you begin this downward spiral of physical and mental health. And often it can be a challenge, because if you don't have some type of resources, emotional resources with friendship, emotional resources with a significant other or a lover, financial resources to go on some retreat, to buy the good, wholesome foods. Like, it takes some degree of resources or resourcefulness to put yourself in environments that are going to begin to nurture the upward spiral to health. And often, and maybe even the way that I speak of it, which is the way that pretty much everybody speaks of it, is a really detrimental way to think about it, because we often think about getting sick and emotionally unwell as a downward spiral. And what this does is it kind of drills, I'm just kind of realizing right now what this does is it drills into our consciousness that getting healthy and getting better is upwards. It requires effort. That getting sick and being negative doesn't require effort. It's like, that's what's going to happen by default if you don't put the effort in to go up. And that's a pretty negative way of being, rather than trying to like take that upwards downwards thing and make it, let's say, sideways. And so that way it requires equal effort. And I'm not there, I'm not that advanced of making it that way, but we should begin to change the conversation so that we think of it that way. So it is just as easy to move sideways this way or sideways that way. But yes, we do have that kind of spiral where we can either become more physically and emotionally negative, and then needing the resources or resourcefulness to put ourselves in the environments where we can then begin to create, as you're saying, we cleanse out the parasites, we cleanse out the yeasts, we start to make our body more alkaline, we align with friends, we get the connection. George was talking about connection. That's huge. I think about that every moment of every day practically, where the biggest problem that we have is this lack of connection with other people. Well, that's going to start the whole spiral of putting us, negative and unhealthy and all that. And even just that power of connection of knowing, like, I'm feeling unhappy and I can call my friend and have a conversation, can begin to get things on a better track.
George, what's your thought? Ordonetti, I sent you a request. You can join us if you wish. George, what are you saying?
Well, I wanted to share a few other things. I mean, firstly, I really enjoyed what you had to say a moment ago. That was very, very interesting, about, you know, understanding parasites and what is and what isn't. I think what's clear is there are so many complex and multivalent ways that the body, soul, mind, emotions can get sick. Now, I've met in my times in Bhutan in the past various Tibetan monks or high energy monks who actually eat sunlight. Now, let me explain before you say what you're talking about.
What are you talking about, George?
There are certain traditions where it's called sunlight gazing. These monks have trained to look in, and they've taught me this to an extent, and I can only do it to an extent. I really can, and I love the sun. But you can get your energy from the sun, but that takes huge discipline and years of getting the body to vibrate in that frequency. I think what I'm going to say here, just joining, having not even prepared for this, because you sweetly asked me on, is we are in a great awakening. What does that mean? We are coming to the end of a system where we are beginning to wake up that we really have been polluted, mind, body, spirit. Everything that we've eaten hasn't really been as healthy as we've been told. We've been oversold everything and undersold the truth. That's not conspiracy, that's truth to power. And what we're doing now, we're trying to put the jigsaw puzzle back together. And it's complex because it's gut health, it's spiritual health, it's understanding, you know, every immune system is slightly different. Everyone will react differently to an injection or even a vaccine. You know, it is very complex, but you have to listen to yourself, you have to do your own work, and you have to work energetically. And I work more in the energetic spiritual realm, but I also have a garden. So I know what is good physically. But, you know, people say I have a really, really good green thumb. I think it's because I use my water. I have structured water as opposed to bulk water, feeding my plants real water. And if you research structured water, it's very different to bulk water. And most of the planet relies on bulk water these days. It's to do with the vibrational content. And then, of course, understanding 5G, understanding what.
Oh my God, 5G is another thing I was going to talk about.
But also, and I'll be quiet in a minute, understanding what Oregon is, and understanding that when you can tap into the divine cosmos through the sunlight, think of the Tibetan monks again, you can pull in from the ether. And that's when you activate the mind, body, spirit realm. And your whole aura literally vibrates at a higher frequency. This is just the truth. But we have to teach people this because they've forgotten it. We're actually in a position now, at the end of the age of Pisces, the beginning of the age of Aquarius, is to remember what is truth. And the ancients knew it, but modern science, modern paradigmatical thinking has blocked it. Now, there's another conversation. Has that been done deliberately or unconsciously? We don't need to go there now, and I can certainly go there with you on another talk when it's more relevant. But we have been blocked, and now it's the time to unblock that low-level consciousness so we can awaken.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I wanted to add really quick, just because it was something I had thought about, and George just reminded me, is I know that there is a lot of negativity towards social media, and I agree that it can cause a lot of issues. I think that it's a powerful tool, and we're all just babies that don't know how to use it yet. Because the fact that the three of us can be connected right now and have this conversation is pretty powerful and amazing. And when I was growing up, especially in high school, like I'm a creative and I played music and played guitar. I wasn't a big person, so I didn't get to play sports. And in a lot of America, like, I don't know about the world, maybe it's worldwide, but especially here in schools, like sports is praised above all things. And if you can be on the football team, man, you're a popular and you're a star. And if you can't, then you're not. And if you play music or you're into acting or arts or whatever, then, you know, you get pushed aside or, you know, all those sorts of things. And maybe you get bullied or made fun of. I didn't get bullied or made fun of, but that happens. And I think today, like, I almost dropped out of high school because of loneliness and lack of connection. So I think the problem is right now is that the parents are are also the 2-year-olds with the new toy. So we have to kind of get to this point where we grow up and learn a degree of maturity around these tools so that we can use them instead of them using us.
Yeah. Very good, Jeff.
Well, here's the deal, Jeff. I'm not sure. I think the social media overall is doing more damage, especially to the youth, that it has any benefit for any of us. Remember a couple of days ago, you and I and my other friend, Asya, we went for lunch and we walked around, right? Jeff was asking me for a couple of days to go hiking or do something. And I was like, oh, I'm busy. Let's see, I'm busy. And then all of a sudden, remember a couple of days ago when suddenly Facebook, Instagram, everything got shut down? I sent him a text. I said, okay, let's do it because the whole Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp is gone. And I had 3 sessions, right? So here I am, I'm thinking. And then afterwards, I thought, I kind of really like this. I hope it never comes back.
Well, Sudi, let me add to that really fast. And that is, it has been, I don't want to use the word exposed because there's a lot of energy around that word, but we know that social media companies employ addiction experts to make social media more addicting. Okay. Now, the problem is not social media. The problem is the social media businesses employing addiction experts to make their platform addicting. That's the problem. You remove the, ability for these people to hire addiction experts to make this platform addicting, and you have a healthier platform.
You remove human morality and human ethics and it's high vibration, really.
That's correct. It's all about ethics. And that's why I'm saying it's the great new tool in the hands of a 2-year-old, because right now you've got a little bit of this malevolence going on of how can we manipulate everybody and keep everybody kind of plugged in. And as we evolve, we're going to start taking our power back and saying, this is not right. We need to get rid of all of this stuff.
Can I just jump in and say something? What's so interesting about what's happened in the last 4 or 5 years, I tend to date it back to the timeline shift to 2016. We don't need to get into that now, but I think most light workers understand the timeline shift to 2016 and how it's connected to the Mayan prophecy of 2012. But the thing is the darkness is being exposed. Up until 2016, even the light workers weren't in a position to point the finger and say, there is the darkness, because it was so hidden in the shadows. In the last 4 or 5 years, we can all agree on this is so much bigger than politics, race, religion, gender, sexuality. It's about where is the darkness. It's visible now. And that third dimensional matrix that we talk about is being alchemized, because even Joe down the street in the pub is beginning to go, something ain't right. And when Joe down in the pub says that, bingo, we have liftoff.
Yep.
Yeah, I totally agree. But here's the deal. I mean, look at the kids today. They're on social media, like on this machine constantly. And they're like, their self-image is like 0 right now. Because they're on their social media, Instagram, looking up all these skinny looking girls and what a nice stuff they have and the trips they're going to.
So they're going to be part of the deprogramming situation. That millennial, or it's even less than that, I don't even define the group. There is going to be a good bulk of the human population who are going to be properly helped through med beds and through many different new Aquarian systems that have largely been kept hidden from the public, all of us, and they are going to be available as time comes out to heal and to get back to that frequency which we call human. And that's why I'm very positive, but it's going to be very dirty and mucky for the next year plus. But I do think it's going to start to see green shoots from summer next year. But the next few months is going to be even more of a contraction. I'm an astrologer, so I use the language of the planets. And Saturn is out of control. Saturn is out of control. Talk about parasites. Saturn, when he puts his power down, and what does he do? He castrates his father, Uranus. Okay, so at the moment, the parasites are running amok because the immune system of the individual host isn't strong enough. In other words, Jupiter is in descent. But come next year, Jupiter is going to be overthrowing his father Saturn, and we are going to start to see, if you like, the kingdom of God. And that's a powerful term, but for me, God is consciousness, God is light, God is truth, God is love. And that is going to start to play out, because this is the Great Awakening. People are alchemizing these old systems.
Mm-hmm. So getting back into Parasite, I've been talking to a friend of mine. He's a functional medicine. And she was telling me that Parasite is disabling so many of us in so many different ways. She was talking about, skin issues like eczema, psoriasis, fungus, low fat, and I'm just saying this again because it's like if the parasites can totally take over our gut bacteria, and if the parasites are hijacking our brain and our minds and our emotions and our ups and low and up and down and all these things, the sadness that the consciousness is experiencing right now, even the loneliness that is becoming pandemic, like people are feeling lonely, and it doesn't matter if they're in a relationship or if they're not. People are just feeling lonely, is this lack and all this stuff. And all of our hormones, I want to emphasize this again, whether you have hormonal imbalances, whether you are like I don't know, whether you have thyroid issues, your cholesterol is up, or all of this thing. Let's take a really serious look at parasites. I, for one, said I don't need to do any testing. I'm just going to stop all dairies, sugar, gluten, even egg for me. I feel like every time I eat eggs, is something funny is coming up, like I get bloated and that stuff. So I'm just going on this 40 days journey. No to sugar, no to gluten, no to dairy. And then I'm just going to keep on cleansing and taking a lot of vegetables like wheatgrass, barley grass, spirulina, doing a lot of juicing. Like George said, like drinking celery juice, or I went to this spa yesterday and I ordered this energized drink. Oh my God, it was with beets, beets. What else was it? It was in there. Beets and celery and I can mince and cucumbers and all of this stuff. And it was just like so bitter and so fine. I drink that and it really makes your body energized. Let's hydrate our body as much as we can. And going back to the water, the quality of water is so important. I just started recently to get this alkaline machine. What are you thinking about alkaline, George? Do you think it's necessary for us? I mean, nothing is really necessary, but do you think alkaline water is better? Because some people I know is pro and cons, and some are like, no, you don't need to alkaline your body.
I have my own views. I mean, I think all these water filters do work in some ways. I mean, for example, I have a Berkey filter here in the city because that takes out arsenic and fluoride. Now, that's very important for me, arsenic and fluoride, not just the chlorine. But I used to have a Kangen water filter, which is, very popular. And I mean, that was quite expensive, actually. I had to save up for that. And that's very much about alkalining. But I do think, you can go too far. It's about the pH balance. So by definition, we need to be closer to 7.5 or 8, not 9.5 or 10, which a lot of people push the other way. We actually need acids in our stomach to break down and kill these bacteria. But and at the same time, we need good bacteria. As Jeff was saying, and I wanted to chip in on that, it's all about having a healthy gut where you can put the good bacteria in proper probiotics rather than just trying to kill everything like a antibiotic does, and then of course you're sick.
Mm-hmm. And talking about sauerkrauts and kimchis and that stuff, I went with my friend to a Korean barbecue, and they brought in all these like 7, 8 different kind of kimchis with different sprouts and this and that. So I had some of it, and I took the rest of it home to have it today. What do you guys think about the fermented vegetables?
I'm a big fan. I mean, you and I were talking before. I have a friend who makes his own
And I
homemade.
was supposed to order that, and we didn't. What happened to that, Jeff?
I think that problem's happening over there, Sudi.
Okay.
We'll talk later. I'll put you in touch with the guy. But he makes kombucha. He makes a tonic. And the tonic is raw apple cider vinegar with a bunch of things added. And then he makes fermented fruits and vegetables. And he can speak far more at length. You should have him on here sometime. Like if he's even on here, I don't know if he's on here, but he can speak far more at length because that's his business, is getting into but what he told me once, taking him at his word, is that if you consume kefir, which is dairy, and you can get a non-dairy kefir, which is basically just like hyper fermented yogurt, and then you have
they can make that even with coconuts and many other things.
But if you consume kefir, fermented fruits and vegetables, and kombucha, you're consuming all of the enzymes, 100% of the enzymes that your body needs to perform its functions. So, without being knowledgeable or educated and just taking advice like that, I've made sure to make fermented foods a much bigger focus of my food intake.
And you, George?
Yeah, I mean, I've been making kombucha now for just 3 or 4 months, and that's very effective. We also pickle up at Jupiter Rising at my retreat. We pickle food, especially going into the winter months. So for me, it's all about working with the seasons. So eating fresh and then pickling some of the vegetables in the autumn, getting ready for the winter. But I have a lot of essential oils, really good quality, in particular citrus ones. So I have wild orange, I have tangerine, lemon, lime, and I flavor my kombucha with those ready for the winter months, so we get the vitamin C.
Yeah, absolutely. I use so much like clove oil and oregano oil and all of these. I do the squashing with coconut, clove, and oregano, and that is they're very antifungal also. Oregano and so guys, I'm invited to do another join live at it's a Farsi one, but anyway, I gotta get going. It was lovely having you both, and have a wonderful rest of the day, and I see you guys soon. Bye. Take
Bye,
care.
sweetie. Bye.
Bye,
Take care, guys.
everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I was also live on Facebook for those of you who wants to join us in the future from Facebook. I gotta go, guys. It was nice having you. By the way, if you guys want to get a gift from me, you can sign up on my English YouTube channel, Sudi Burnett English, and you can receive a gift from me, any CD, DVDs, or file. Love you all. Start doing a parasite cleanse, and you will see how much you feel better. Much love. Bye-bye now.